You've selected the right show to listen to in order to become the best salesperson you can be. We literally listen to actual in-home sales presentations of salesmen at all different levels to show you precisely how to close more deals and what to avoid. I'm your host, Alex Mark. I built a sales-based home improvement company from $0 to $20 million in 2 years and then sold it to private equity. And I'm here to help you become the best salesperson you can be and put more money in your pocket. Welcome back to part 2 of the First Call Closer podcast with Chad and Dan. If you have not listened to part 1, stop right here. Go back, listen to part 1 of this episode where we actually broke down some role play right after Dan graduated from training about a month or so ago. Yeah. So now we're fast forward a month. We're back here at the table. Dan's ran, I don't know, how many appointments do you think you've ran in the last month?
Many.
150.
150. Holy crap. That's a lot of appointments.
No
You've
shortage
had
of leads.
A lot of
Chicagoland area.
Yeah, pretty solid amount.
A lot of at-bats. So my first question before we get into actually listening to one of your recordings, breaking down the good, bad, and ugly, how has the last month been? What do you think of actually running appointments? What surprised you the most?
What surprised me the most is honestly how if people have had appointments already come out before and other companies giving them estimates, how uneducated they are still on the process because these other contractors are not breaking down what they're doing, what the material's made out of, their installation process. They're basically just coming out, doing a quick drawing, giving them a price, and they're out the door.
They're not following any sort of sales process.
No.
So, it sounds like I would imagine that gives you a pretty big competitive advantage, right? You can go in and actually educate them on the process, come off like an expert, and close more deals.
Right. I mean, I've even had people that didn't buy the fence call in the company and say what a fantastic job that I did going out there and presenting the product.
Okay, but they didn't buy the fence.
Right.
Why didn't they buy it?
Price.
It's always price.
Chad, Grant Cardone actually says you get like 12% more referrals from people that don't buy from you than you do from people that do.
Really?
Yeah. So hunt those people down. Who do they have that they know that they could buy a fence because they loved our process enough to call in the company? So utilize that as your strong point. They feel bad for not buying from you because they wanted to and they couldn't.
Right.
They will refer you to all their friends and family.
So that's really smart. Always
taking the negative and making it positive.
If you're not going to close it, get something out of it. But what I do want to touch on for a second there is, you said that the biggest reason they're not buying is price, which I've heard Chad you talk about before, even in the last episode. Always comes down to price. Yeah. What are some things that Dan could be looking for, trying to do, or any sales rep out there that's hearing that it's, I love you, I love the company, this was fantastic, I'd love to do it, but it's just price?
There's a multitude of things you can do, and what I try to do in training and what is key is obviously you find out, and especially listen to some of these Rillos, but the things that need to be said before price hits the table. So that's the key point. A lot of guys get in there and want to kind of rush the process, or the customer's like, come on, like, what's the number? Let's get to it. So they feel forced on it. They're letting the customer lead them as opposed to them leading the process. So what happens is if you don't do the proper steps to, build a realistic price point, we call it price conditioning. If you don't break down kind of the other ways of doing a project and walking down the aisles of Home Depot or Menards and going through that process with them before price hits the table, you lose all your credibility. Because if you try to do that after the price hits the table, now you sound like you're just overcoming objections, sleazy sales guy. He's just trying to get me to buy this. If you don't build that credibility beforehand, where people are like having those wow, aha moments, it kind of loses its sizzle after the price hits the table because they're now turned off to you. So the biggest thing you can do is go back and find out in your process what you think you're missing. And let's face it, like Dan said, they're going to have 3, 4, 5, especially in metropolitan areas like Chicago and the suburbs. You're going to run into a multitude of people that have had 5, 6 estimates and they didn't get a process. So good and bad, because what we find is the homeowner isn't ready for us to come out and give a 30 to 45 minute presentation. So they might be rushed or busy, or the kids are going to soccer, or husband's not home. So they didn't expect to get that world-class, service that we offer. So sometimes you're fighting an uphill battle in that sense. But if you can get those folks to the table, picnic table, kitchen table, top of a garbage can, if you can get them to slow down a little bit and lead them in the process, I tell it in training, it's 80-20, 80% of your time building the relationship and 20% of your time closing the job. What I find is a few weeks after training, a lot of guys come out of training hot, really building that value in the process. They kind of lose that sizzle. They find their complacency. They find the ways that they can maybe shortcut something and get through it faster. And they run into, now they're spending 20% of their time building the relationship, 80% of the time trying to close the deal. And that's never going to work.
It's got to be the other way.
You got to build the
the
relationship
value and then close
first.
it.
I'll get to that price. Just give me a second, John and Mary. And really, if people are rushing you, what you want to do is slow them down. You know, you control the process. Like, hey, I have a feeling, you know, you folks, when it comes time to make this decision, would want to make the most educated decision you could, right? Do you feel like you were educated by the previous 4, 5, or 6 guys that came out? How confident do you feel in the process, what they're offering you? Do you know what they're giving you? Do you know what they're using? Do you know the installation process? All those things. So all I would like to do with you folks is take 20 or 30 minutes of your time and educate you. Whether you go with me or not is up to you, but I feel like you should at least, especially if you're going to spend a good amount of money, 15, 20, 30, I don't know how much your job's going to cost, but if you're going to spend that amount of money, you probably want to test drive the truck first, right?
Right.
If you're going to spend $40,000 on a kitchen, you're not going to let a contractor just come in and pick the cabinets and pick the poles and pick
You
the
know what you're
countertops. You probably should sit down and figure out what you're going to put on your house. So that's all I'm trying to do for you folks. And a lot of times you'll find a guy that's rushing you. He'll respect you more on that. Just being real with him, slowing down the process. Hey, I apologize. You know, I had some stuff going on I wasn't expecting. No worries.
Yeah. Definitely meet them where they're at and convince them to go into your process.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think we're going to hear a good amount of that in the recording today as we break it down. As we'll hear is, Dan, you stuck pretty well to the process. A lot of what we heard in the role play, you did in the home. But ultimately, spoiler, this did not result into a sale. So I want to be listening as we go through. And let's keep focus on what are things he could have done? Where did this go off the track that it didn't result in a sale? Because I'll tell you, these people definitely want the fence, need the fence, as we'll hear, but they didn't buy today. So we need to figure out why didn't they buy and what could have Dan done different to actually close that sale. So as a reminder, we're going to break this down into 3 sections as we listen to it. We're going to listen to first the company story, building value, and the closing sequence, and evaluate this appointment based off of that. So quick reminder, voices on this have been changed, so Dan sounds a little different when you hear this in the recording after the fact.
The Snapchat filter, the robot voice.
We should try that. Yeah, do a bunch of robot sales. Yeah. So it looks like this appointment was 1 hour and 15 minutes long. Dan, would you say that's an average appointment length for a fence appointment?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. And actually looking at some of the statistics that really gives us is pretty cool. Looks like you talked for 52% of the time and the customer did 48% of the talking, which is actually
that's really good.
That's actually really good. Like you want to be right at about a 50-50 split. So definitely a good job getting the customer talking on this and pulling them out into it. I can't remember the statistic is exactly, but I know I heard Sebastian from Rilla just talking about this recently, that the 50-50 talk ratio has a significantly higher close rate than somebody that's
guys
talking the other way.
70 or 80% talking to the homeowner being 20%.
Right.
It's like, are you talking at them?
Right.
Are they listening?
Yeah, they're not
disengaged.
And like one of the things I always try to do is like I'm having an active conversation with them while I'm pitching the product. So I don't like coming off like I'm just talking at someone like Chad was just saying. Like I'm trying to get them involved in the process.
Definitely.
Telling isn't selling.
Well, let's jump into your first part of your company story, which was 31 minutes into the appointment. So you spent the first 30 minutes, getting to know them, building rapport,
measuring the job.
Measuring the job.
Exactly.
We're not going to listen to all of that, but I will say, just having listened to it, you did a good job with that. You built a really solid rapport where you could tell that they respected
I'll say,
you.
For riding with Dan, he can make the relationship easy. Like he's a good relationship builder.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's listen to your start in on the company story.
So have you done any research on us, or just basically what you saw
That's basically
on
what
Facebook?
I looked you up on the website.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't too much, but that wasn't a bad thing.
So you didn't go on Google and check out our 4.9 rating?
No, but that's probably a good thing that I didn't notice that, I typically notice it when it's really bad.
Well, yeah, we're not worried about that, and the way our owner looks at it is anything under 5 stars is a failure. So, hopefully if we
Respect.
do the job for you, I'd never solicit it beforehand, but as long as you're happy with the work, happy with myself, happy with the fence, definitely appreciate that 5-star rating.
Okay. No, of course.
Yeah, 50% of our business comes off referrals, so
Nice.
it's huge for us.
Yeah.
Because how many companies can really boast about a 4.9 rating,
No, that's good to know.
Especially nowadays when most people aren't really taking their
Easy.
work all that seriously.
It's also easy to drop a bad review, that's for sure.
And that's the thing, is a bad review spreads a lot faster than a good review.
Yes.
So I think it's interesting, Chad. You had just talked about referrals and asking for that. It seems like you kind of were priming it for referrals even early on in the beginning. What was kind of the thought process when, being 31 minutes into it, you started with the reviews?
Nowadays, everyone, even though she didn't look at our Google reviews, nowadays, most people, before they even call a company, they're looking at those Google reviews. And one of the things I do is, I'll prime it there. And then at the end, if I end up offering, if we have a promotion or something and I offer it to them, I already touched on that 5-star review. So then when I tell them about the promotion, and that's, one of the things required for the promotion is, provided you feel we earned a 5-star review, to give us that 5-star review. They're already kind of familiar with that and, already agreed to
Process.
do it.
Yeah.
Planting seeds along the way. It's a form of, ABC, always be closing. And it does come up in our company story. So
It does, but this seems like it was before you actually got into your presentation, so to speak. It was early on. Is there any negative to doing that early on, Chad? Or
I would just say, on those types of things, just hit it and keep moving.
keep moving? Yeah. don't
Hey, when
linger
we
on
do
it.
your project, we'd appreciate a 5-star too. And then just keep rolling with it.
Yeah.
Because one thing we want to try to pride ourselves on is not bringing up other companies and what other guys would, not do or not do.
Oh boy, you read my mind. So 5 minutes later, let's listen in here.
Oh boy. Let's listen.
So, who was the other fence company you said? Paramount.
Oops, we brought up the competition.
Oh,
So-
that's all. I mean, I don't mind them if the customer says it, and then I will follow the customer, but I will not talk badly about them. If a customer wants to talk bad about somebody, fair
That's
game,
fine, yeah.
right? Hey, I'm not here to talk about anybody else. We just offer a different type of product.
All right, let's listen to hear how Chad or how Dan approached the situation when Paramount came up, because it wasn't you that brought it up. In full transparency, listening to before this, it was a customer that said, "Yeah, we had Paramount out here." So you're
Do we get to blurt out
asking
that
questions.
name every time so we're not advertising for another company? No, I'm just
Paramount.
Yeah, and they've done some fences in the area. We had Paramount, and then we had a third one. I did not like the guy that they sent out. It was he's one of those guys where he was, I don't know, it just, he made me feel like I didn't know what I was talking about, but in a belittling way. It was back in the napkin, math, and it's well, how much did the other guy quote you? Well, we can match that, off the bat. And I was well, if you can match it, you can go lower.
Right.
Yeah, I don't even remember who that guy was. We'd seen his name on a couple others, his company, but I don't even think I kept his paper. I think he left, and it was Josh, nope, didn't like you, didn't like the, it. I think he was trying to be very, hands off, here's the number, and I was I don't like that.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
It was weird.
They didn't call me crazy, but I want people to feel informed about the investment that I'm asking them to make.
Can I see?
I like that.
Yeah, so I mean I think exactly what you were saying is he's not bashing the company, but pretty cool that 37 minutes into it, the customer was that comfortable with you to share all of that of, hey, here's what I didn't like what this guy did. He made me feel like this. You must have built really solid rapport in order for them to be comfortable with that. Because I know I've been in sales situations where they say, yeah, I got another quote, but I'm not showing it to you. Show me yours first, then I'll show you mine.
There's a fantastic process here, and it's a super simple way to open this can of worms, if you will. But you can look around the house, and you'll see that either the roof's been done, windows have been done, something's been done around that house. If they didn't just buy it, there's a good chance that they went through the process. So I see you had some windows replaced. What did you like about that process? And they will literally tell you how they bought those windows. They'll tell you what they didn't like, or I'll ask, how did that process go? And it's either going to go one of two ways. They're going to tell me all the things they loved about that company and all the things that they want us to do for them, or they're going to tell us all the things they hated about that contractor and all the things that we can now hit on and utilize in our process. Like, hey, cleanliness on the job site, timeliness of being here, 1 day process, right? So always asking questions to load that gun, right? One simple question. Hey, I see you got some countertops done. That's awesome. How'd that process go?
Yeah, and you're
Bam.
building that ammunition, so to speak, right? You're keeping that in your toolbox to be able to deploy later on.
If you're not
when
asking
needed.
those questions to remember the answers, then it's not going to do you any good.
Yeah, definitely. So we're gonna go. This next part is just 1 minute later into this, right after we talked about the competition and that you gathered that information. But well, let's listen and I'll see what Chad thinks
For
about
the
it.
record, Dan, everybody wins when a leader gets better. Okay, so this is all for your betterment.
So recap. Customer just said, "Yeah, I had those guys out. Didn't like them. Didn't like the
Yeah.
price they gave me. All of that." So
That guy was this.
Dan, you could
ball.
have kept that information and said, "All right, let's deploy this later on," or you did this.
The only way I'm able to offer you a good deal is because I don't have any fences or decks in your neighborhood. So part of our marketing budget, we like to put money back into the customer's hands. So I can knock off like 15% of the price, and all you'd have to do for me is I already have my before pictures. Let me take some after pictures of the phenomenal job we're going to do and stick a sign out in your front yard for 30 days.
So just to be clear, this is not at the end of the appointment. This is literally right after
You
just
son
had
of a
that talk
thought
there.
we were gonna close.
Right, it sounds like it sounds like we went to the closing. That's what I thought. I'm like,
That's all right.
how's this an hour appointment? We're closing at minute 38.
I like it. He's going in. No, he's going in for the kill.
But I mean, Chad, is that the
I
point
get
that,
I
you
think
would
he
talk
was
about?
probably
a 15%
trying to plant
discount?
a seed. He was planting a very large seed. It was kind of like setting it all out there. I don't know. Taking it out of context, I don't know the conversation that surrounded that conversation. So I do know that I probably wouldn't have incorporated some of those word tracks into that series of events. But again, like I said, context in every situation means a lot. So, moving forward, like I said, if we're gonna plant those seeds, it's a very small, like, hey, when we get to pricing, I think I've got something in your neighborhood. I don't know, did the girls mention the promotional home opportunity when they were setting the appointment? No? Okay, great. I want to get to that when we get to the price.
Right.
But you plant a seed and you just track right over it, right? As a tractor's planting a field, he doesn't stop on that one and push that seed into the ground. He's just gonna keep on spreading seeds.
Right, because
So-
I mean, if I was a consumer, I'm thinking, we're already 15% off. And it's now becoming price game
yeah.
in their end, right? Like he's already discounting 15%. Let's see how low can we go.
Now all you need to do is
Right.
write that on the back of a napkin for her.
Right.
But I think it's a key piece that, exactly what you said is keep it in your toolbox. She gave you awesome information, but it's our natural ambition, or what we want to do is respond to them and say, hey, that's what happened to you. I have a solution for you. I'll do better on price. I'll be honest with it. But it can be more powerful to do what Chad is saying and store that back later and use it when you need it. Hone back in on what you learned earlier on.
It's amazing. I think me and Dan were talking about it one day too, given his background. But I was listening to a podcast from an FBI hostage negotiator and the way they pull information out of people by just simply stating a fact, because everybody has the urge to want to be right about something. So you can say something as simple as, I'm sure those other guys were way higher than us. And they'll want to automatically be right, so they'll give you that information, and you know you're wrong, right? So it's just little things like that. But I mean, obviously, as we practice, Dan's 1 month into this. The relationship is key, so he's doing really well. through the
Right. I mean, you
process.
built as we talked about, you built a fantastic relationship with them in that first 30 minutes to be able to get that information out of them.
Yep.
It's just now
What to do with
where
it.
are you going to use it? Yep.
Yep.
So next we went right after that, you gave that discount or said we'd have this discount. And then we went into more of a company story. So let's listen on that and see how you did.
I want people to feel that they're informed and they can call me if there's a question or an issue. Like I tell people, if you don't like the way the fence is put up after we put it up, you call me. I'll have a crew out here within 72 hours to take it down and put it back up.
Okay. No, that's excellent to know. Hence the 4.9 star rating.
Exactly. I mean, we're very serious about that. If you don't like it, we're going to tear it down and we're going to start over.
Okay.
And I don't know if the other guys explained any of their process to you about how they actually build fences, but we're using a more modern technology. So we're not going to come out and we're not going to dig a bunch of holes in your yard and pour a bunch of concrete and mess up your nice big backyard. You know, you don't have to worry about some guy on a backhoe doing donuts, turning it into a mud pit. We're taking a 10-foot steel pole. We're driving it 5 feet into the ground, so it's below the frost wall.
Nice.
So when we're doing that every 8 feet.
Okay.
So every 8 feet, you're gonna have one of these big steel poles 5 feet into the ground. You know, so your fence is never gonna lean, it's never gonna tip over, it's never gonna buckle.
It's windy over here. We got coming off the field.
So we're the only company that's Miami-Dade County rated because we can withstand hurricanes. We can withstand up to 120-mile gusts of wind and sustained 80-mile-per-hour winds. So your fence is going nowhere.
Nowhere. Where's your fence going?
Nowhere.
I mean, I want to hear Chad's thoughts on this, but I thought, like, I really enjoyed listening to that and learning the education on that. Like,
That's huge.
You present it in such a way that you talk slow and educational to where you can understand what it is. It doesn't feel like you're trying to sell me on anything.
That's the best part about the whole thing is when people don't feel like they're being sold, they're just being educated. That's the softest close you could ever have. And when it just simply slide that number over and let them do what they will with it, at least now you know the educated decision is the one they're going to make, right? It may not be the best for you, but
Right.
but it yeah, no, you did very good there.
All right, let's keep listening on.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. And, you know, that's another thing, too, is I can't speak to the other company's warranties, but we have a lifetime warranty.
Okay.
So I'm assuming you guys are probably going to stay here for a while.
Ma'am.
Yeah, raise your family here. I see the yeah.
Yeah.
So you bring up the warranty quite a bit. What's your strategy with trying to, you know, it sounds like you didn't say we have a lifetime warranty. You're trying to pull more emotion out of it with the kids, or kind of talk me through what that is.
Well, I mean, you know, chances are I know that our estimate's going to be a little bit higher than whoever came before us. So I'm trying to build value.
There you go.
And you
Absolutely.
know, with a 1 to 2 year workmanship warranty,
Everybody
you're
hear
not
that?
building much value in the product. But by me saying that, you know, and like Chad said about planting seeds, you know, I'm planting the seeds about the lifetime warranty, about our process, how we're able to offer that lifetime warranty, because I'm just trying to increase the value in our product over competitors without bashing the competitors.
Absolutely. Chad, is there any thoughts you have on things he should add to that or expand on more?
Just the only thing I would say, I mean, you did exactly what you needed to do, but remember in the beginning, the couple questions we asked the homeowner, how long have you lived here? How long do you plan to be here? Because you can kind of tell if it's that forever home. I'm going to ask that question. You guys just moved in a few months ago. Everyone's going to be in their home forever when they just bought it. They're not looking at, maybe 5-6 years. So if you ask that question in the beginning, you guys remember when you said you're going to be here for the next 20, 30 years? Now you don't have to sell it. They've already sold themselves.
Right.
You just connect those dots and say, remember earlier when you said you're going to be here for 20, 25 years till the kids graduate at least, right? They're pretty young. So given that, you know, that lifetime warranty is going to be a huge benefit for you in the long run.
Right.
So the next part of this is 2 minutes after you talked about the warranty, you talked a little bit more about you built some more value, and then you went into what I'd call the initial part of the closing sequence at 43 minutes. And well, we'll listen to it, but I was a little confused by it.
Sure.
I want you to be happy. Like the last thing I want, you know, is you to love my fence, and then every month when you got to write a check, you're like, God, son of a, you know, I don't want you cursing my name every. You're like, I love the fence, but I hate paying this bill. You know, I want you to enjoy every aspect of the fence, and I want you to feel like you got a fair deal as well.
Thank you.
I'm not out here trying to take food off anyone's table.
Okay.
And we're looking at white on white.
Please. And
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Although I don't know if I saw online what are the other color options, but I think white on white.
No what?
So listening to this, obviously we can't actually see what was happening in the appointment. So I don't know if you remember this one, but my question is, at this point, were you starting to build it out and you were just trying to
Were you
plant
building
more
it in Builder
seeds,
Prime
or-
at that point?
Yes.
So you hadn't shown them a price or payment yet.
Correct.
Okay.
What was that conversation before that?
I don't even remember. That was
Too long ago.
right.
I was just
I've
wondering.
had
'cause
100
that's the question I
appointments and-
ask when I present payment. When we're isolating down on that payment, I want to say, hey, most folks I talk to are closer to this payment. Would you be like them, or is that still too much? Well, we could do it. You know, that's when
Right.
you're going to say, hey, I don't want you to do it. You know, I want you to be like, hey, this is comfortable. It's not going to affect our day-to-day living to put a fence in the yard.
Right.
Right. It felt premature, a little out of place to be saying that before they even know what
Again,
the price
context in the situation, but yeah, in I could hear you building it in Builder Prime. So yeah, that's
Yeah, I think that's what was going on. Now, the next part that happened here is right after that, and might be tough if you don't quite remember this appointment, but it sounds like the husband walked in and wasn't there for the whole time. So
dun, dun.
And I know that's important. You know, it's super windy in Manhattan too, so I know it's important to get a fence that's going to be able to,
Yeah.
you know, especially you see some of the cheap vinyls and one bad storm and half the panels are missing or they're falling into your neighbor's yard.
Oop, looks like that cut off. I don't know why the full clip isn't playing, but the husband basically, it sounds like walks in and she says, "I'm like, yeah, it's going to be his decision." My question for Chad is now, if that's what happened, since we don't have all the context, we weren't there, but let's assume for the sake of this, that's what happened. If you're 45 minutes into it, you're just starting to build out your price, and it's a one-legger that then becomes a two-legger, what do you do?
That dynamic is interesting, isn't it, Dan? Because
We just talked about it the other day.
and this is not in any way a sexist comment, but when you are with a wife in the one-legger situation and the husband comes home and you're hanging out at the kitchen table laughing and joking, I think there's an interesting dynamic there where the husband almost has a defense mode and engaged, like, what's this guy doing? Laughing with my wife, you know, drinking my wine. Something like
Got
that.
his
It's
feet
like,
up on my couch.
yeah, what's going on here? Playing with my kids in the yard. So you want to be mindful. Right then, I'm going to stand up and greet that guy. You know, like he's the man of the house. Address him that in that sense, depending on the scenario. Right. So you could say it a million different ways, but that's what's fun about this job, and also what kind of makes you want to smash your head into a wall is that some days you're going to be dealt 5 one-leggers and you're going to find ways to overcome them, and sometimes this is going to happen. So all we can do is the best we can in that moment, and what I would do then at that point is maybe try to re-gauge the temperature in the room. The temperature might have been warm and it just cooled by about 60 degrees like that. So I need to now warm him up, get him educated, and say, hey, I'm going to now paraphrase everything I just went through with her, because let's face it, she's probably the one making the ultimate decision. Wife wants it, wife gets it. Happy wife, happy life. So I can paraphrase with the things that are going to matter to him. If he's a construction background guy, he comes in with a lime green shirt on, I'm going to hit the trades portion of it. I'm going to hit the driven pole systems. If he's wearing suit and tie, maybe he's an accountant, I'm going to hit on the aspects of how this is going to be a one and done situation. You're never going to have to deal with it again. You're not going to be spending your weekend warrior hours out here replacing boards and staining them. You know, I'm going to read the temperature in the room, and that can be a million different scenarios depending on the guy that walks in the door. So, or the gal. Right. But the goal then is to get him caught up, get them back on the same page. And that's actually one of the best scenarios you can have, because she's sold. Now I just need to get him on board, and I'm going to focus my energy on him. What's he like to do? You know, what's his plans with the home, and does he plan on doing this himself? I can re-paraphrase some of those conversations and circle the wagons, get it back to square one, say, okay, now I think we're all on the same page. Let's go ahead and get the pricing together and make sure we're on the same page there. So
But I imagine what you don't want to do is just continue on and act like normal as can be. When the husband or wife or the second party joins, you gotta address.
you could attempt to ignore him, but that would be very awkward.
Well, when I say ignore him,
Sir, we're talking. Sir.
when I say ignore him, you know, I mean,
no.
don't step back in the process and make sure he's educated, because you're going to get to the close, and then one person's going to understand the
gonna
value,
need to talk about
and
it.
he's not.
Yep, and he's got his defenses up, like I said. So it's one of those odd dynamics where you're going to want to get him back on board.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's listen to the next part, which is right before you get into your actual closing sequence. Here we
So
go.
before we get into numbers, just want to tell you a little bit about us. So we're currently in 33 locations. We have over 500 employees. So we're in 19 different states. The product, like I was saying, it's UV stable. It's UV treated, so it's never going to fade. It's not going to fade at an uneven rate. You know, you're not going to get a white fence and then one day you go out in the back and half the panels are gray. It's not going to chip. It's not going to peel anything, because it's a virgin vinyl. So its original purpose is your fence.
Is this after husband's home now?
This is right after the husband's home, so it seems like you are doing exactly what we just talked about. Before you get into price,
Re-educating.
you're re-educating him on it. You probably already, actually, I remember you did already talk to the wife about all of this, so
Good.
she's hearing it again. So
And that's again, like I
good.
said, you want to he's gonna want to know, what am I getting put in my freaking yard? I don't care about all the other hoopla.
Right.
What's this and how much is it?
Yeah. Honing in on the actual product.
There's a
that's
reason
really
she
solid.
probably set the appointment in that way, because she knows he's gonna be tuned out or not giving a hoot about any of it. So
Yeah. All right. Now let's get into the moment we've all been waiting for. How did Dan present
let's all remind
price?
remind the audience here, this is not a bash Dan session.
No,
This
no.
is, I have to, trust me, there's days I'm out there swinging for the fences and it all falls apart. So the beautiful thing, and again, I reiterate back to our marketing team, but the fact that we get 3 to 5 of these chances a day, we're very blessed and grateful for it. So all we do is get better each time we lose.
100%. I think we can look at, we've gotten to this point in the appointment, and you've checked a lot of boxes of doing a
Yeah.
lot of things really well. Like, this customer trusts you. They see the value in it. They're giving you the buying signs.
Yeah, feels
But
good.
that's where, as we were talking about this right before we jumped on here, it falls off a lot when you present price. Not you specifically, but just
and
people
you
in general,
there's
right?
a real
Yeah.
stat for it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you know that's a rub. That's in the industry. You can watch guys' voices change. And not saying that Dan does that, but you can literally read the temperature in the room, and you can cool a room down pretty quick when you put the price over there with your tail between your legs.
All right. Well, let's listen in. Let's see how Dan did it.
Okay, so I came up with something I think you're gonna like. We were originally at 31,547.
Okay.
And then I threw on those discounts, and that brought us down to the 26,160.
No, Chad had a heart attack over here. Oh no. Well, before we go any further, Chad, do you have something you want to address?
No, carry on.
No, we're good. We're good. Okay.
5.
Okay.
So some people like to handle it in 2 payments.
Okay.
And that'd be 40% down, which would be 10,466, and then the rest upon completion.
Okay.
And then some people like to do it in a few more payments. Which category would you guys see you fall in?
Probably like
So, I mean, Chad, I think I know what you're gonna say, but just me hearing this, it's like he did 95% of that to script.
I know, right?
Like, perfect. But the 5% that you didn't is what I think gave Chad the heart attack. So let's talk about that.
I love you, Dan. What were those discounts about? What were we doing with the discounts right off the bat?
Oh,
Just kind of for sake of
it
time.
was, well, I mean, like I already said in the beginning of the appointment when I talked about the promotional offer. So I just, instead of, offering it without it, since I'd already talked about it, I threw that on there so that way.
You almost feel like you trapped yourself.
Yes,
and trust
absolutely,
me, like we talked in
absolutely.
the first episode, you can get yourself stuck by saying something. And I feel like, especially as new guys, we want to fill we always want to be filling the void of the awkward silence. I think sometimes understanding the pace and slowing things down allows you to kind of track back on saying, I don't need to bring that discount up right now.
Right.
And I can let a little awkward silence sit here for a second. And then I get back to what I was going to say. So it's all in how you're delivering it. Remember, before you go in, just take that little moment, couple deep breaths down the street, whatever, and slow your pace down. And just remember to let this unfold as it should. But guys get rushed and then they start talking themselves into a box. And that's what just happened. So now he had to
Yeah, you didn't have a choice.
I mean,
right?
I
Jack in the box, right? Bam, here's your discount and everything.
I'm pretty sure at that point in time, I felt like I'd already offered the discount. So then if I present the price without the discount on there,
The only thing
they're
I
gonna be like,
could
well, what
say-
happened to that 15% promotion?
There you
Right.
go. But that's what we should have done, right?
Right.
In any sense, even if you plant that seed early, go back to square one and deliver that price full boat, because he didn't hear it, for one. And then if she brings it up, say, oh, yeah, we did talk about that. I wanted to kind of bring that up to you. That comes in the form of a promotional home opportunity, right? My job is to keep the schedule full, educate you on who we are, and I hope I did a good job of that. But ultimately, my job is to keep my crew busy here, these guys. So
Right,
with
you
that,
still give them
you
the
roll
education
back
on it.
into the discount sequence that way instead of front loading it and then leave
Right.
yourself with that much rope.
Exactly.
So that might have been what happened in the close too. They maybe felt like it all came out at once. Now they don't need. There's no carrot and stick to buy now. They have all
Right.
the information they need, so
There's no negotiation then. Which,
they don't feel like they won. They don't get
Right.
that one moment of like, here's my discount. Oh wow, we can do that.
yeah, the other thing that I think is key listening to this, you haven't talked about financing at this point, or if they're going to be cash buyers or finance buyers. I mean, I don't know exactly how the pricing's done, but I'd imagine you can't always give the 15% off if they're wanting like a 0% for 12, 24 months, right? Like that.
That's
that
part
could be
of
an issue.
Well, that's a key element in the reason why we deliver it full price. For one, I don't think anybody deserves that discount. That's something they have to earn, right? So we have to go through those gateways to get to that discount. But two, there's like you said, how are they gonna buy? We don't know how they're gonna buy, so it may not be that we need to even give a discount off the total price. If we can just lower that down payment and monthly payment to a affordable point, then, you know, like they say, volume for vanity, profit for sanity. So holding on to your gross as long as you can is key and all that. So
Yeah, and I think I hear a lot of people say, and I don't think you said it in here. Well, you did say it a little bit of, yeah, I want to get you the best product, best solution, the best price, right? But our goal is not to get it to be the cheapest
Right.
solution for them. We want to make it the most affordable for the customer.
best
right?
value.
And the most affordable for them is not always necessarily taking 20% off the price. It may be getting them into a payment plan that makes sense for their financial situation on a month-to-month basis, which may make it so you can't discount it.
when
as
he
much.
presented price, he did our sequence where we show 40% down and your monthly payment. So he said some folks like to do it in 2 payments, some folks like a few more. That's as short and sweet as I want it. Some folks like to do it in 2 payments, some folks like a few more. How does that $679 fit in your budget?
Which is perfect. Let's listen to how he continued it from there and what the customer responded.
Probably like the few more payments,
Okay.
just to
So we
keep
actually
things
work
in
with
savings.
4 banks that are
nice.
dedicated remodel banks.
Okay.
So people who are making a few more payments, some for this job like to be around this number, the 784. Some like to be around the 654, and then we also have some that like to be around 376.
Okay.
Obviously, you know your budget considerably better than I do.
Yeah.
So
I like probably either one of these, but it might depend on like interest and payment term, like how long
okay,
that stretch.
All right.
All buying questions.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a pretty solid
Write
conversation.
it up.
I think you presented that in such a way it made sense. I've got this option, this option, this option. Which
That's kind
one
of what
fits for
your
you?
program is doing
Yeah.
now. It's giving those different options before that was even rolled out, because he was
Right.
doing this before that rolled out. So
Right. So, I mean, Chad, anything you did wrong there? I mean, that sounds pretty solid to me.
it's not the way I do it. So, you know, obviously I stick to the 1 payment. I don't show the multiple payments, but you know, no, I think depending on how this goes next, that's rolling right into his hands.
Let's hear. Does it roll into your hands? All right. Let's go back, because this is a question I've heard you say many times, Chad, and I think you delivered it quite well here.
Yeah.
so other than price, is there a reason why you couldn't see yourself doing business with us?
Not really. Honestly, I like the pole more than the concrete. Obviously the material looks good. This is for the 6 foot.
Yes.
Perfect. 6 foot privacy. Yeah. And then with the payment plans, is that the, what did you just say?
So with the payment plans, all we need to put you on the schedule is $500.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
and we can lock you in the schedule. So the price I'm giving you today is good for 30 days.
Okay.
But if we lock you into the schedule, that price is that price, and we can push your installation date out until May.
Okay.
So why did you mention the price I gave you today is good for 30 days? No, nowhere did they ask for that.
I mean, I think that just kind of goes with, like, you know, part of what we were trained to do is, you know, I said it a little preemptively, but that is part of, like, you know, I guess it would be more if they weren't leaning on it, and I should have probably said that as I was, like, walking out the door or something. So I probably jumped the gun on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's, to me, sounds a lot like what happened with the 15% off. Is you're planting a seed you didn't want to plant, because now
Right.
they're
Let
in
me
their
ask
mind.
a question
I got 30
before
days.
that comes up. Dan, when you guys were talking about payments, did she give you a payment she was comfortable with?
I think she was just pointing at it in the notebook.
She could do that. And when you said 500 down, I heard the voice go, "Really?"
Right.
So this is where I say, shoot your shot. Because you'd rather get a no now, and that allows you to go to the next step of list price justification, first drop justification, which is what that is. You don't have to go there if you shoot your shot and say, well, let me ask you, I don't know her name, if there's a way I could get this done with 500 down and keep your payment under that 376 and get you done here in May, would we go okay to go ahead and get you on the schedule today? Because I think she would have said yes.
Ask for the sale.
Don't forget to ask for the sale. And I'd rather ask for it. I'll ask for it now than 10 times after when I'm walking out the door. Are you sure, please? Come on, let's go.
Right.
You at least right? We got to break some eggs if we're going
Right.
to make an omelet. So break that egg. And if she says no, now we know what to do next. Oh, really? Okay. Well, can I ask you, is it the down payment or monthly payment? No? Oh, it's probably this guy here. Is this the reason why you're telling me not right now? The big number? Yeah. Okay, well, what did you like about that? What did you like about my fence besides the price? And we go into that. Then we, again, with the list price, first drop justification. Well, my job is to keep the steady flow of orders. This number here is good for 30 days. Do you think you could, how soon in the next 30 days could you let me know on that?
Right.
Well, probably by next week. Wow, really? So
Wow,
soon?
so soon.
So then that allows me to open up that next gateway of, well, we're really actually looking, like I mentioned earlier, we've got a lot of jobs in this surrounding area, but none right in your direct neighborhood. So what I'd like to do is offer you the first advantage of taking of our promotional home opportunity, right? So it's just setting up the sequence, and that comes with practice too. Like if guys aren't taking the time to go home and practice that with a significant other, a friend, themselves in the mirror, stuffed animal, I don't care. You got to listen to yourself do it, record yourself doing it. With technology now, you can put Rilla on in your bathroom mirror,
Just
and
listen
you
to
can
it.
listen to yourself. So, man, back in the day, I had to do this 100 times in the bathroom mirror. My girlfriend thought I was freaking crazy. You can do it once now and listen to yourself over and over and critique it one time. So
Now you really are crazy. Listen to yourself over and over.
I hate listening to myself, and I'm sure Dan feels the same way listening to this.
I mean, does anyone like the sound of their own voice?
So now when he
recording?
watches the podcast, he gets to hear himself, listen to himself. Whoa.
Nice.
So yeah, I think just practicing that sequence and understanding where you need to attempt your sale, because that's a takedown shot right there. That's
Yeah, so this next
Double it.
part, you did try to, I think, go in the sequence a bit, but it's not really in order or in the main sequence what Chad is talking about and trained on. So let's hear this and see what you do different, Chad.
I'm not here trying to take food off anyone's table.
Yeah.
If I was able to call my boss and come a little bit lower, is there any way we can get you on the schedule today?
I think that would ultimately be this guy's decision. For the numbers, they came in a little bit higher than Paramount, but they offer more payment plan options than Paramount did.
Okay.
So for 500 down, they would get us on the schedule, but the quote is good
And
for
lock
30.
your price.
Oh, but the quote is good for 30 days. Ouch.
That's what we call tripping on your own dick.
Because right now we're still on our 2023 prices.
Okay.
So mid-March is when they normally come out with the 2024, and I'd rather get you on the 2023 obviously than the 2024, because then I have to try to justify why our prices went up another 5% because of inflation.
Oof. So you tried to create the urgency, but you screwed yourself
Remember-
because you said it's good for 30 days.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, remember, once the price hits the table, everything after this is an attempt at the sale, and they know that. So you got to tread lightly after the price hits the table on how you maneuver.
The final part here that we're going to listen to was the customer's last objection that they had and the ultimate reason that they said they couldn't buy. So here we go.
I think I am holding off just a smidge, even just to confirm when that garage is actually.
The garage, what?
Okay. I think I am holding off just a smidge, even just to confirm when that garage is actually.
Okay, now I remember that appointment. Now I remember
the garage
exactly what
did it.
So what it was is they're adding a third garage.
Right.
So they didn't want to put the fence up right then and there because they wanted to do the addition first so they
Yep.
could actually get the, exact measurements and everything.
So my question on that would be is she talks about the garage 19 seconds into when this recording started. It's actually the first thing she said was, hey, our house is unique and we can get a third garage where he really wants to do the third garage. We're going to do that. But then you go another hour and 15 minutes before the garage comes up again until the very last second in the presentation. So you didn't address it, right? Like you could
Right.
see in the beginning that
Do
that
they
was
have
probably going to
do
be
they
an
have
issue.
plans for it? Do they have like drawings and
Yes.
stuff? So
She was already working on
we
the
could
permit.
go off the measurements there. And then essentially set the schedule for it back in like June, early or May or whatever. Yeah.
So Chad, how would you approach that throughout the appointment? If someone says, "Yeah, we've got this big garage project going on. We just got the permits."
That's
and
awesome.
You knew about it throughout.
Well, you need to
where
have
do you
our
address it?
sister company, TSR, come out and at least take a look at that coating, when that garage is done. We're the garage floor coating experts, and I'm sure then they've heard of us. So that would automatically segue into some relationship building. But I would be excited for them. It's the genuine excitement. I want a third stall in my garage. I'd love a second stall in my garage right now, Alex. But laughing at yourself a little bit and being like, wow, this is super cool. Bringing it up throughout the process. Well, what made you choose the guys that's gonna do the garage for you? What made you choose them? Again, we can use all the steps in the process. Now, are they offering any kind of warranty when they get the garage done? We can and just build that little snippets of stuff when we're going through the process of bringing up the garage. But knowing that we know it, and hindsight's 2020, Dan could probably think of a million ways he could have done this differently and better. So again, putting someone on the spot isn't our thing, but obviously we learn when we listen to these. So I would say I would try to incorporate that into my process, through the process, and then say, hey, I understand that garage is probably, I would almost say, precedent over the fence, right? You gotta get the garage done first. So it sounds like you're already pretty well on your way. You got the permits, you got the plans, everything's approved. Yeah, good. Well, when did I plan on starting the process there? When's that dig starting? Great. So what I can do is I based all my measurements off of your yard with the garage included in it. We would love to come right out before you get all the landscaping finished. Obviously they're going to grade and backfill your frost wall there. What we would like to do is put the fence in before you start, all your landscaping and getting things finished up. So it would behoove you to get it scheduled now so that you call me in 3 weeks when your garage is done and now we're pushed out till June or July. You're going to be like, well, we really want the fence done. I would rather be ahead of the 8 ball like you guys have been the whole time.
Right. And I think that the key thing there is you wouldn't bring that up 19 seconds in when she first talks about it. And you also wouldn't bring it up at the very end when she said, well, we're going to hold off because of the garage, because you then sound desperate and like you're just trying to sell.
Yep.
The key is that you hold that information at 19 seconds when she gave it to you, and then you sprinkle it in throughout when you're talking about your process for building the fence, what it's going to look like. And you paint the picture of they're excited about this beautiful garage. How beautiful is it going to look with our fence going right up to it?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know what the house looks like, but I'm sure with our fence on, it's going to look better.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But like I said, those are things you can think about. And again, Dan being somewhat new to this type of industry, you're packing a lot more, and not to bring up what you came from, but being in insurance sales, all those things and the fact-finding data is all kind of a slower process. It's not packed into a 45-minute wow session. So I understand some of those things, but being able to pick up on them early, utilize them when you need to, and then shooting your shot, like you said, it's like wrestling. You're wrestling with someone, you set them up in a position where now you have the chance for that double leg takedown, and bam. But it's utilizing all the information you're given them beforehand to make it smooth and feel natural. Because like you said at the beginning, I want this to feel as natural as possible. And I feel like you lost track in that close and didn't feel natural, and it came out very unnatural because you were out of your element.
Right.
So again, the natural feeling only comes from repetition and practice. So it's crucial that you just practice it and understand that sequence of events to where you're saying it in your sleep.
Yeah. So before we sign off, Dan, any thoughts on hearing what Chad had to say? When you go out there later today, tomorrow, what are you going to do different?
I mean, I feel, as opposed to a month ago when that was a little over a month, I feel like I'm considerably smoother now with the clothes. And
you got to get back on there and start using Rilla again so we can pull a newer one.
He said he threw that Rilla in the garbage after that one. This is the one that broke the camel's back.
No, but, as far as, like, I've already adjusted numerous things, like, as far as I've learned not to present that discount until after I've already presented the price. And when I see like a hesitation over price, without giving, I don't know who's watching this podcast, but, I'll look at the phone and I'll start looking in the company cam and seeing if we have, houses in the neighborhood so they can see I'm looking at stuff. And that's when I'll present the promotional offer.
Nice. So you've definitely honed the skills a bit more over the last few weeks.
You know, a little tweak here, a little tweak there. You know, don't tell them about the discount in the beginning.
Yep.
You know,
you learned your lesson.
Oh,
so.
you definitely learn by fire, right? It's trial by fire. And
exactly.
I've had plenty of times where I put my own foot in my mouth, and you got to work your way out of it, and then you leave the house like, probably could have sold that one.
Yep.
But didn't. And again, like you win some and you learn some. You don't learn when you win all the time. If this was that easy, it'd feel like a factory job. Same person, same customer, same answer. It's the challenge and getting better in that close and sharpening those skills, and that's what this really does, 100%.
Awesome. Well, Dan, it sounds like you're well on your way. I mean, listening to this, you definitely have the personality and the trust factor to be an awesome sales rep. It sounds like we just got to hone in the closing sequence and be a bit more confident on the price presentation. But appreciate you guys coming back on to go over this, and maybe we'll have you back again sometime in a few more months and hear a more updated one, right?
He says he's better now. Let's go.
Right. Let's hear it. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
All right,
Alex.
thanks.
All right, the last thing we need to do is give Dan his official first call closer score. So starting with company story, Dan did an overall good job of building rapport with the consumer and telling the company story and what made his company different from the rest. So for that, I'd give him a 6 out of 10. Now for building value, it was sprinkled throughout the presentation, not always in the best spots, but he did hit on a lot of the key points. So I'm gonna give him a 5 out of 10 for building value. Now finally, the closing sequence. As we talked about, that's really where Dan stumbled. He didn't clearly ask for the sale, and he let some key things that he brought up early bite him in the butt when it came to presenting price. So that's really going to drag down his score with just a 2 out of 10. Overall, that brings Dan's first call closing score to a 4 out of 10. If you want to know your first call closing score, leave us a comment below or email us at casting@firstcallcloser.com for your chance to be on First Call Closer.